He's so good. Topson's actually so good. Everything he does in this game is just so good. So let's talk about it. But no joke, guys, like, I just watched this game through and I'm thoroughly impressed at his movements. Like, one of the things I struggle the most with when I'm playing Dota, and I think a lot of people do too, is strictly what do I do after the laning stage? Especially if I'm coming out of a good laning stage and I want to make moves. How do I make moves? How do I get kills without sacrificing my own farm and scale? What areas of the map do I play? When do I cast my spells? How do I sustain my mana? And he answers all of these questions, so let's get into it.
The mid lane role is for star players, which is why at gameleap.com we've designed an in-depth course teaching you every trick and concepts pro players abuse to crush the middle lane. There's no better role than mid to solo carry your ranked games, so hit the discount link in the description below to unlock your unfair advantage.
So the first crazy clip that we're going to cover is around the 4:26 minute mark. And what does he do here that's so notable? Well, it's absolutely fantastic. So he just recently killed the enemy mid laner, and then because he understands that the bounty runes are coming up, and he's so used to making this pattern and fast and efficient, he nukes the wave instantly, and at the same time gets his bottle delivered. And what's even more crazy about this, as he puts away his stats to get maximum efficiency for his bottle, once again, absolutely beautiful. I love that Topson always does this every single game. But he manages to get a regen rune, which he doesn't use instantly, of course, but then instantly goes to fight the bounties. He makes the game impossible to play for the side laners. He wins this lane, which I'm not covering in this video, but he wins this lane and then manages to make these flawless rotations, right? The Rubik's like, oh, I'm gonna go contest the rune. Nope. He harasses him out, and now, all of a sudden, instead of getting 0 runes, which is probably the case for his team, they're going to get 2. Right? Most likely 2, unless the Rubik goes and yoinks the other one, which it seems like he's doing. But regardless, this enables him to pick up a kill. You have to understand, guys, if you can hit level 6 pre the 5-minute mark, you must fight the bounty runes. It is such a big spike. If you are 6 pre 5, which is not easy but possible, please fight the bounties. You were much stronger than everyone else on 90% of heroes. So that's exactly what he does. He gets a nice little proc on the Pudge here, and then chain stuns him to death. Really nice Pango movement, obviously, so that's just a lot of Pango play. Regardless, though, now he has a regen rune. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than this. He spends the time of the regen rune to use his swashbuckle on the nearby camp, and this is how he creates efficiency. His ganks are reliable. He ganks at the bounty rune, and then after the bounty rune gank is done, he farms the nearby camp with this regen rune he picked up. Now, of course, you can't get a regen rune every game, but all I'm saying is he makes the maximum efficiency play all the time. Now, right after that, after his gank, he goes back to mid. No time to waste. I mean, this is so efficient. Also, the Mirana happens to hit an arrow, which is obviously very convenient for him. However, you notice he would have just pushed out mid anyway and continued to race his farm. He doesn't just gank. Now, what I want to point out is that he constantly ganks with a rune. And this is very important because I see players just walking back and forth. They have no bottle, they have no sustain, they have no particular spike. Maybe they're just a higher level than their side lane, but that's about it. And guys, if that is your ganking pattern, you're going to fall behind in the majority of games unless you are very good at reading the map. But here, he sees the Pudge very far up. Look at the minimap. Very far up. Pudge is brutally far up. And as a result, he gets a DD, walks to the Pudge. That simple. It's that simple, but it's based upon a rune, right? Pinging his support to go. Obviously, she's not paying enough attention. Regardless, leads with the swashbuckle. Snipes a courier because he's the GOAT. I mean, who's that fast? It's crazy. And then picks up a kill on the Pudge, right? Easy money because he has a DD, right? Super simple. And then even what's more important is that he doesn't instantly leave the side lane, right? You'd want to typically go back to mid right away in the early, part of the first 10 minutes, especially pre-5. After your gank, you usually want to go back to the mid lane so you don't lose too much efficiency. But in this case, his Wraith King can farm it, and his Wraith King is also not farming top, so him taking top farm is very logical, right? It kind of opens up the lanes for him and his Wraith King. And he spends the rest of his time picking up, once again, another kill onto this Rubik. So obviously it's just so clean, guys. You have to look at this. Oh, it's just beautiful. After he gets the kill top, gets out of vision, right? Instantly gets out of vision so that the enemy team can't perfectly read his movements. And then he TPs to the bottom lane, misses his swashbuckle here, unfortunately, but regardless, picks up another kill, right? He's just everywhere. He's legitimately everywhere. It's so hard to play against this because he gets ahead and then just bounces from the lane to lane, predicated on bottle charges, good runes. you know, obviously proper spell casting, like that TP is just so nice, but it's so fast, right? He's just all of a sudden from one lane to the next. You can't read his movements, because usually what I recommend to people is like, okay, if you see the mid lane or top, you can make a play on bottom. But for him, that just doesn't apply, right? His opponents barely can rely on that, because it hits the point where he's all of a sudden top, and then the next 3 seconds he's bottom. It's just insane. In addition, I just want to talk about his effective early game items. A lot of people try to make movements and plays in the early game without buying items that actually enable you to do this. Your items don't enable you, but he goes Treads, which is a great Pangolier item, very, very underrated, much better than Mana Boots for mid lane, in my opinion, because they give you early stats and actually plenty of mana. But more importantly, he buys a wand and 2 Wraith Bands, and this early game stat-based item build aligns with his play. His items align with his play, guys. You have to do this. Now, the next thing we're going to see is him getting Invis Rune, and then instantly with this Invis Rune, he makes an Invis TP play, right? Very nice, Invis TP, right? Because you can cast your TP while you're in invisibility. If you do it fast enough, it won't cancel it. And then he immediately goes top, right? I think his goal was to catch out this PA, ends up bumping into a Rubik coming up here, but really that's just the idea. He's sort of just making his movements impossible to read. Do you think, guys, if you're on the enemy team, you can track this? Do you think you know where he's going? Do you have any clue? Do you think even wards can scout this stuff out? No. There's no, like, no. Maybe his top rotation to the Pudge earlier on, sure. But at the same time, like, it's so hard. It's so hard to read these movements. He's just TPing from lane to lane and not losing efficiency, because he typically, you know, quickly pushes out the lane, still has 44 CS and 842, which is, this amount of CS is what people get if they're like AFK farming at this point. I mean, I can't even explain this, guys. It's so difficult. But once again, now with this team, this is very high MMR play, but regardless, with this team, they're making a very defined and aggressive movement into the enemy team jungle, and this is something you want to do as a mid laner. I hear people all the time like, oh, I can't make plays, like I don't know what to do. You have to get your teammates to play with you. You got to talk to them, right? You got to have good communication, let them know, hey, I want to invade this jungle here. And as a result, the supports have really good wards up, and he's able to throw it at the PA. Doesn't end up getting the kill here. Doesn't matter though, right? He is completely disrupted her farming pattern, and Sand King and the Wraith King are completely free farming, so it's a big win in the end. And then not only, like, just to really put salt in the wound, he even takes her Ancients. I mean, that's just a Topson move if I've ever seen one. But what's really fascinating to me is his constant play in the side lanes. He has not played mid at all previous to like the few Magnus kills he got that were just him. Like, those kills just happened because he wanted to push in mid to keep his farm up. That was like the only reason. But other than that, he's just sort of playing around his teammates, you know what I mean? And this is one of those things that I don't always actually recommend to a lot of mid lane players. I sort of recommend playing this playstyle where you split push a lot and then show up to fights, and that's very effective too, because you don't have to read the map as well as Topson, right? The plays he's making this game are very much predicated on the idea that he's staring at the map, whether he knows it or if it's intentional or not, he's subconsciously doing it, and this allows him to just make these crazy plays like this top dive, which forces a Magnus TP, forces a Wyvern TP, forces a PA TP. Guys, if you want to make space, this is space. Now, it's insanity. What he's doing is insanity, but it is space. And does he die? He has no TP, right? Nope, but you're Pangolier. Right? His hero enables him to do this. He's Pangolier, rolls to the base, picks up a TP in the enemy team's base, and rolls out. I mean, it's just comical how clean this all looks. There's legitimately, it's seamless. It's seamless. I'm sorry that I'm like praising him so much in this video. It's just, I watch this, I'm like, wow. It's no shock he goes 17-0. His team did not carry him by any means. Like, he didn't have some like free game. He just made the perfect movements. The next movement I want to talk about is one that is very important. Either him or his Mirana called for a smoke. Right, guys? If you were confused why you can't make plays, once again, this goes back to the point I was talking about briefly earlier. You have to talk to your teammates and tell whoever works with you to come play with you, right? He's not working with his Wraith King. He's working with the heroes he wants to play with them, right? The heroes that deal a lot of early game damage. So he's got a max Starfall Mirana, right? Very good. And a Veil Sand King, also obviously extremely good. And now they can invade the PA's jungle, right? They want to run at the PA because this is the goal. PA can carry this game for the enemy team. She already has 95 CS, farming quite well with the Magnus and power, right? So they have to shut her down, right? They really have to. And so what does Topson do? He runs at the PA. He has a very good understanding at this point in the game of who actually threatens his team in the mid to late game, and as a result, he runs at her, right? And this is using his advantage to actually run her out. Now, Obviously, she gets a TP out. I think he wishes teammates followed her. But then once again, you see how he makes this play consistently where he ganks one side lane, and then after he feels like there's nothing left to do, he immediately goes to the other one. It just makes your movements really hard to read because this Pudge is a very high MOR player, right? However, why can't the Pudge, why is the Pudge not able to read this? Well, first off, the Pudge might just not care about dying. He might want to force teleports, which is not a bad idea actually if he's trying to create space for his PA, by all means. But at the same time, it's because he saw the Pango top. He sees all of his threats top. Why would he think it's dangerous? You know, even if they have TPs, a lot of players won't TP. But Topson, he always does. He always does. He makes a gank top, pushes in the lane, and then after that happens, he immediately gets to the other lane with no hesitation. And that's actually very key. No hesitation is a big part of that. So just making that clear. No hesitation. The more you hesitate, the worse the play becomes. And now next up, I just want to talk about a macro map movement idea where, look at his team right now. So, do you see how they're positioned right now to take over the map? Do they have one person in each lane? No. Now, you can do this depending on the heroes that you have. If you have a dead lane hero like Enchantress, you can play 3 lanes. But more often than not, this is the easiest and the best way to play Dota, where you're taking over 2 lanes and using your vision advantage, like this ward that they have over here, or just position advantage, to actually shut down the opponents from farming 2 different lanes. And then you can also pressure in their towers, right? That's typically what they do, for the most part. And basically what this does is it prevents your team from spreading out too far. It allows your team to make very coordinated movements, because a lot of the time people are confused on how to actually coordinate things and make plays. Well, you have to play on certain sides of the map. If you're constantly spread out, it's actually very hard to do this. And it's not I'm not saying 5-man. Guys, don't 5-man. People think you have to 5-man at 12 minutes in if you're ahead. That's actually the worst thing you could do in the majority of situations, because it's just going to allow the enemy team to farm every part of the map, other than the one lane you're in, I guess. But even then, they can just probably kill you because you're under their tower in vision. But going back to the point, him and his team playing very much together this game enables them to take over the game, but they're not actually pushing towers. He's not pushed a single tower this game, right guys? Even though he's ahead and he's making ganks, he's not pushing towers. That's not what Pangolier does, and it's not what a lot of heroes do. So stop trying to push towers just because you're ahead. The better thing to do is stay mobile on the map, push in lanes, and constantly shift your focus from area to area, because frankly, it is very bad to just hit a tower. Do you understand what it means if you hit a tower? It means that they see you, right? And that has a lot of implications. It means that the heroes that you threaten now can show and farm in certain parts of the map, and it also means that they can go on you, right? And next up, let's briefly look at a fight, just to talk about this, and his mechanics in general. It's really interesting, first off, to note that he only has 66 last hits at 16 minutes, and usually if this is guess the rank, I'll be like, yeah, this guy's 2K. However, this is the OG special, right? It's how they play Dota. They are willing to sacrifice their farm to completely shut down the enemy, right? That is how they play. He uses his spikes in terms of levels to completely shut down the enemy. The only things you've killed this game are a few jungle creeps that has shut down the PA's farm, and then lane creeps. That is it. And that is how you keep up tempo. You can't ever jungle on your side of the map if you're really looking to play giga fast. It just does not work. You have to be constantly making smoke plays and then doing things like this where you go deep. He obviously baits them in a little bit here. They're like, oh, he's overextending. He has no ulti, no Q, no W. Let's go on him. Well, wrong. Because then the Sand King hits a massive burrow strike into ulti, and it's GG. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are lines. Now, people are like, Speed, what lines? Who cares about lines? Yes, lines. Lines are very important. Lines are so important that even Topson uses them. Look at the minimap. You see these lines? You see this big bubble? It's not a very good bubble. It's a bit unorderly. For a TI winner, I think he could do better than that. But the point is, he's telling his team where he wants them to play. If you are a tempo controller, you need to give them general areas to play. Don't tell them to do exactly certain, just be like, hey, guys, let's play this area and take over this part of the map, right? In addition, what I recommend you pair that statement with is, let's take over this part of the map and get down vision there, which is exactly what they do, right? He draws that part of the map, and they have a ward down there, meaning that they can easily play there. Play around your vision. In the mid game, when you're trying to control the map, play around vision. Why is this, playing this specifically, this part of the map so good for Dire at this point? Well, I just thought about it recently, and I'm like, okay. I think the main reason is, let's say the PA goes to farm bottom. She's in such a dangerous area because there's no way the enemy team has proper vision up there right now. There's no way, right? They haven't even been allowed to play that side of the map because Dire, Topson's team, had been playing there for the last 5 minutes, so they have no vision there in the enemy team, and they know it. Now they all of a sudden take over top, so where do they go? Into the place where they have no vision, and then into a deep area? Like, you see how deep this is? How far out the PA has to go? It's just so far away from anything useful. If you get caught here, you're dead. So they shift their attention to top, which enables them to later on get Roshan because they're playing on Rosh side, right? This is the better side for Dire to play in the mid to late game if you're playing for Roshan as well. And all of a sudden, like, the enemy team can't do anything. Like, that was Seb on the Rubik, and he just looks helpless. He looks low MMR by dying like that, but the reality is, like, I don't know what he's supposed to do. He's stuck, and then all of a sudden, he TP's mid. It's like, no matter what you do in this situation, you're just stuck. Like, it's really hard to make plays because they take over one part of the map, they completely deward it, and now you can even see the PA trying to farm bottom. They deward it, and then they take over the other side of the map. All of a sudden, you're just trapped, right? Because you get one side closed out, you see nothing. You have to assume that the enemy team probably has at least a ward there that's going to scout you, which they sort of do. They have one here. But overall, I mean, hopefully you can kind of get the gist of what I'm saying in terms of Dire map movement. I don't know if I'm totally correct about all this because, once again, I'm not like a pro. They have a much better understanding of the map movements, so hopefully I'll be able to talk to someone eventually and give you guys the best possible analysis. But for now, that's the best thing I can tell you, and that is, you know, when I'm saying this, it comes from a lot of replay watching and experience from my own games. And yeah, finally, this is basically how the game ends. They just close them out. They choke them out. Guys, what is the main theme here? There's one last thing I want to say before wrapping up this video that really closes it out and summarizes the difference between high and low MMR Dota that players have to start acknowledging and getting their team to do. Have they gone high ground? They are 19k ahead. Have they gone high ground? Yes or no? The answer is no. Why is that? High ground is the worst place to fight in Dota. It is the worst place to fight in Dota. So why do I see 3k and 2k and 1k and 4k and 5k and 6k players just walking up the high ground nonchalant when they're only 5k ahead because they got a pick off on a hero that's respawning in 12 seconds? It does not work. You will die 80 to 90% of the time because they see you and you do not see them. So what have they done instead to continue building their lead and winning the game? They close out areas. They don't run up the high ground. You should not try to end the game unless your strategy specifically is designed to do that, which in this meta is typically very uncommon. So yeah, please take this into consideration. Stop just running high ground like a fool. Please take your time, control areas, make clean, crisp movements that are fast and hard to read, and eventually you'll become Topson. That's not true at all. However, you'll get closer to becoming Topson. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe to help the channel grow. I appreciate it. And yeah, tune in tomorrow for more content.
Tired of being held back by your team? At gameleap.com, we have pro guides covering some of the best heroes in the game to solo carry your ranked games, as well as a course specifically covering the mid lane role. Click on this link right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount and start your journey today.